neither do the ignorant seek after wisdom. For herein is the evil of ignorance, that he who is neither good nor wise is nevertheless satisfied with himself. He has no desire for that of which he feels no want. I dare say that you remember, and therefore I need not remind you, that a lover, if he is worthy of the name, ought to show his love, not to some one part of that which he loves, but to the whole. And now, Athenians, I am not going to argue for my own sake, as you may think, but for yours, that you may not sin against the God by condemning me, who am his gift to you. Is there a perfect world? And we have made of ourselves living cesspools, and driven doctors to invent names for our diseases. All the gold which is under or upon the earth is not enough to give in exchange for virtue. No science or art considers or enjoins the interest of the stronger or superior, but only the interest of the subject and weaker. For wherever a man's place is, whether the place which he has chosen or that in which he has been placed by a commander, there he ought to remain in the hour of danger. He should not think of death or of anything but of disgrace. And this, O men of Athens, is a true saying. Thinking the talking of the soul with itself. A dog has the soul of a philosopher. You are my star, a stargazer too, and I wish that I were heaven, with a billion eyes to look at you. From this tale, Callicles, which I have heard and believe, I draw the following inferences. Death, if I am right, is in the first place the separation from one another of two things, soul and body, nothing else. Every class, then, has plurality of being and infinity of not being. As being is to becoming, so is pure intellect to opinion, and as intellect is to opinion, so is science to belief, and understanding to the perception of shadows. For I do nothing but go about persuading you all, old and young alike, not to take thought for your persons or your properties, but first and chiefly to care about the greatest improvement of the soul. I have hardly ever known a mathematician who was capable of reasoning. Wherefore, O judges, be of good cheer about death, and know of a certainty that no evil can happen to a good man, either in life or after death. An empty vessel makes the loudest sound, so they that have the least wit are the greatest babblers. Any man may easily do harm, but not every man can do good to another. When men speak ill of thee, live so that nobody will believe them. True friendship can exist only between equals. Geometry existed before creation. People's souls give up much more easily in hard study than in physical training, since the pain, being peculiar to them and not shared with their body, is more their own. We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. You should not honor men more than truth. Everything that is responsible for creating something out of nothing is a kind of poetry, and so all the creations of every craft and profession are themselves a kind of poetry, and everyone who practices a craft is a poet. There is no difficulty in choosing vice in abundance. The road is smooth, and it is hardly any distance to where it lives. But the gods have put sweat in the way of goodness, and a long, rough, steep road. The most virtuous are those who content themselves with being virtuous without seeking to appear so. A hero is born among 100, a wise man is found among 1,000, but an accomplished one might not be found even among 100,000 men. Be kind, for every one you meet is fighting a harder battle. Nothing will injure me, not Meletus nor yet Anytus, they cannot, for a bad man is not permitted to injure a better than himself. Virtue is free, and as a man honors or dishonors her he will have more or less of her. The responsibility is with the chooser. God is justified. The worst form of injustice is pretended justice. The soul takes flight to the world that is invisible, but there, arriving, she is sure of bliss and forever dwells in paradise. The fairest music is that which delights the best and best educated. Once you have the means of life, you must practice virtue. In order for man to succeed in life, God provided him with two means, education and physical activity, not separately, one for the soul and the other for the body, but for the two together. With these means, man can attain perfection. At that point, they all agreed not to get drunk that evening. They decided to drink only as much as pleased them. The measure of a man is what he does with power. Now early life is very impressible, and children ought not to learn what they will have to unlearn when they grow up. We must therefore have a censorship of nursery tales, banishing some and keeping others. The wise man will want to be ever with him who is better than himself. Ignorance, the root and the stem of every evil. Opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance. Character is simply habit long continued. I know why, Socrates, the reason is that my countrymen, the Ephesians, are the servants and soldiers of Athens, and do not need a general, and you and Sparta are not likely to have me, for you think that you have enough generals of your own. But a man whose actions do not agree with his words is an annoyance to me, and the better he speaks the more I hate him, and then I seem to be a hater of discourse. Isn't the phrase self-mastery absurd? I mean, anyone who is his own master is also his own slave, of course, and vice versa, since it is the same person who is the subject in all these expressions. Music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. I am trying to think, don't confuse me with facts. But then, I said, speaking the truth and paying your debts is not a correct definition of justice. Quite correct, Socrates, if Simonides is to be believed, said Polemarchus interposing. For knowing their own inferiority, I suspect that they are too glad of equality. If women are expected to do the same work as men, we must teach them the same things. How could they see anything but the shadows if they were never allowed to move their heads? Musical innovation is full of danger to the state, for when modes of music change, the laws of the state always change with them.